going to VAR. They're checking.
Hey, Kai.
Check complete. Let's head over to the bar.
Welcome, guys, to the inaugural VarBar Boys Debates at the Bar. So this is a new segment for us at VarBar Podcast, of where we're going to start delving into different lists and different debates out, which are common in the football world. So what better debate to start off with than the top 10 greatest Premier League players? So we've done something similar before where we've discussed the best strikers in Premier League history, and that did really well. So why not just continue that with the top 10 midfielders? So just introducing how this will work from our side. We've got the boys at the bar in the background. Let's hear you, boys.
Yo. What's going on?
Yes.
What's up?
So I've got a massive list of top 10s from all of the boys. The way it's worked is everyone gives me their top 10 and every player gets a mark for where they've been ranked by each player. So whoever finished first gets 1 mark, whoever finished second, 2, etc., etc. So the player with the least amount of points essentially will be our greatest ever Premier League player. So we're going to work in reverse order, starting with the top 10s and work our way up, shouting out each player and how well we kind of rate them in Premier League history. So what's funny actually is the boys at the VarBar podcast, we all kind of agree in terms of who are the top 10 Premier League players. So we actually have only 11 players within this top 10. So we're all quite aligned, but where it will get interesting is the order of players. So just to get started then, we're going to start off with the shout-outs players who just didn't make it, but the players recognize their greatness and their kind of stand in Premier League history. So start off first in the blue side of Manchester. Fernandinho made the cut.
Interesting.
In Chelsea, a couple people shouted out Makelele. And then in Manchester again, a couple people shouted out Carrick. So actually just going off first of all with Carrick, United boys, what do you guys think him not making top 10?
I understand why he didn't, but I do think Carrick holds a special place in a lot of Man United fans, man. I think he's definitely the definition of player that goes under the radar in it because of what he done and what he achieved in the game, and the fact that he I wouldn't say replaced, but he walked into a United team which were winners, and I think that's sometimes harder to come into a team which are a bunch of winners and still have your own space within that team. So yeah, shout out Carrick, man. He's honestly one of my favorite United players since I've been a fan anyway.
Press?
Yeah, a graceful footballer, man. I think that's the word that I'd use to describe him. Fleet of foot, probably deceptively so. Could break lines for fun. I mean, his passing ability was tremendous. Could find a killer pass, could find a pass to release the attackers. And yeah, just had a great eye for a pass, man, and fit well into the winning formula that we had at United for many years. So yeah, always got us, like Charles said, a special place in my heart, man.
If you're Spanish, you'd have more flowers personally.
Yeah, probably would, man.
Carafinho.
Yeah, bro.
No. Hey, Char, I can't agree with you about that because
you couldn't.
It's just the generation. No, it's not even about him being at Man United. It's just the players that were ahead of him, which obviously we'll touch on. Were just elite as well. So it's not.
No, but I really like what Char said. It's this probably list of players who didn't make the top 10. They're the ones who go under the radar. So everyone appreciates how good they
honorable
are.
mentions.
Exactly. Yeah. And just as the last honorable mention, actually, who I wanted just to briefly cover, Shalom, you shouted Santi Cazorla, and I genuinely love that as a shout because in Premier League history, he's honestly one of my favorite aesthetic players. Left foot, right foot, takes corners, each side. Just delve into Santi, man. Give him his flowers.
Yeah, I think the Prem lost. We just lost the time to just revel in Santi Cazorla due to his injuries. So it was a shame. But what can I say? You've already covered it. Left foot, right foot. His balance is so hard to take him off the ball. Was it Gary Neville that said you couldn't get a ball in the telephone booth? That if he was in the telephone booth,
so
you're not
good,
getting
man.
the ball off him. It was just so good. There's not much I can say apart from that he was just a complete midfielder, in my opinion.
He was generally one of the first, well, not maybe the first as such, maybe I was just maybe wet behind the ears as such, but he was definitely one of the first players I actually stood up to think, bro, he's actually two-footed, like generally speaking. Like,
I'll genuinely, I've said this numerous times, he's probably the most two-footed player
I've ever seen.
I've ever seen.
Ambidextrous.
Wasn't there like something ridiculous where he scored like a free kick with both feet at the same in the same game or some stupid something mad like that? Yeah, no.
I think for me, the moment that would always like live in my life is that FA Cup final, that free kick
against
when
Hull.
we needed. Oh my god! And Tosin was there as well when that happened. I can remember that clear as day. I literally hugged Tosin when that ball went in.
Shout out Santi, man, and shout out the other players. But yeah, let's get cracking, man. So top 10, starting at number 10. We're going to start in Red Manchester, man. Straight up, the Irishman, the 7 times Premier League winner, 5 times Team of the Year, 2000 Football Writers Player of this Year, and 2000 Fans Player of the Year. Roy Keane. United fans, give him his flowers, man.
Praise, man. You can have this one.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I don't think Roy Keane got enough appreciation for his footballing
That's my
abilities.
point. Yeah, man. I think people. Yeah, go on. Praise,
I think people kind of. And yes, that was a prominent part of his game. You know, as a dogfighter, you know, he didn't take nonsense, and he was, you know, very physical and a very aggressive midfielder. But in terms of his actual footballing ability and his ability to carry the ball, his ability to find the pass, and he was a neat and tidy centre midfielder, and there wasn't really anything in terms of ability that he could not do. But yeah, on top of that, he was of course a leader, a great leader in our midfield, and yeah, I've got enough time for him as a footballer. Enough time.
Do you know what's funny about Keane? So looking through the list between 10, 9, and 8 and 7, there's not really much to split them, but with Keno, he never made it higher than 8th in anyone's list. So he's kind of 10, 9, 8 across the board of where. So it feels like 10 is around the. I
think that's due to footballing reasons. It's kind of touching on what Perez said. I think that's because a lot of people didn't really realize how good he was actually as a footballer, which is probably a compliment to him that he's probably known more for his leadership skills than he is as a footballer. I think when you look back on what Roy Keane was like as a footballer. So yeah, it's probably a compliment to him. However, I think when obviously we delve into some of the other players, you start justifying why maybe he wasn't in terms of actually like a baller comparison to maybe some of the others. I'm surprised he's 10th, to be honest, because he wasn't 10th for me.
Yeah, but anyway, let's move. So working nicely again, we're still in Manchester, but the blue side. This one really surprised me. And at number 9, we have David Silva at 9. So 60 goals, 93 assists, 6 most Premier League assists. Only one player in this list above him. I'm going to give this one to Tabo, man. Me and you have him at 5 on our list, and everyone else kind of has him at 9, 10, 8. Speak about David, man, the Merlin, man. That's what we call him up north.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm surprised that he's actually that low in the list at number 9. And I mean, he changed City. He changed came in and gave City that new life, should I say, of football. And man, I don't think there's ever a season where we never would talk about David Silva in the Premier League as being one of the best players. So yeah, very surprised that he's that low. But then again, I guess individually, maybe he didn't do enough to always capture people's with the moments. He was more of the team player.
No, I kind of agree. And that's why I think he's kind of this low. But there's always that one iconic moment. And United fans, I think you know which one I'm going to cover, right?
6-1.
Exactly. That
volley pass.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Oh, even the reverse pass.
Was that to Dzeko?
The reverse pass.
That's the one. Yeah. Nah,
that hurts still. That one hurts still.
The way Steven is kissing his teeth, I can hear it.
That pass just broke the spirits of all fans, man. Like, I know when I saw the pass, I knew
Back
Bruv.
goal.
But just the techers, the cut, the spin, and
Yeah. I
can't
think
speak highly.
he's the definition of the pass before the assist, isn't it? In a
Yeah,
sense, I think
indeed.
that's where he probably,
Yeah.
because when you think about him as a player, you don't really you can't really bring up stats because I think it doesn't
that's
do
the
him
point I was
justice.
trying to make. Yeah.
And then the craziest part is he's still sixth most assists in Premier League.
Yeah,
So
mad.
exactly what you're saying. He had the pass before the assist. But yeah, shout out David Silva, man, a
Definitely,
wonderful player. And same again, we're staying in Manchester, and you guys can kind of guess where this is. And there was literally a vote to separate eighth place, and we go to Yaya Toure. So 3 Premier
Wow.
League, 62 goals, 32 assists. Steven, man. So in this list, a couple of people kind of had him between 7 and 9th, but you had him the
Wow.
highest at 5.
Yep.
Speak about Yaya.
Bro, I don't care what anyone says. For me, I know everyone says, "Oh, it's one standalone season," all that, but bro, that season, I don't think man actually deep what the guy was doing. The Aston Villa game when he picked up the ball and he ran past a whole team.
He
You
just
actually deep
bulldozed
it.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
and he bagged. And then the thing is, like, he scored. Like, he put it bin. Nah, that guy for that season, just because of that season, and I think not even necessarily just that season, but I think everything that sort of transpired from that period of time for Man City. I think for me, he's got to be top 5 in it, because I don't think any player. Obviously, don't understand this Premier League top 10, and you can't really go by sort of standalone seasons. But I don't think any player in that list hit the heights that Yaya did in that season, and that's why for me he has to be top 5.
Anyone else on Yaya?
I mean, I had him at 6th, and for me, it was just the sheer physicality of the bloke.
Madman.
I can't remember someone that was genuinely, like, I'd say Pogba now, but was just genuinely that athletic. Like, he covered ground like there was no tomorrow. But
Ate it up.
At his size as well, it was a bit scary, yeah.
Bro.
And then he's still curling it top bins on free kicks.
Do you remember when he had that period when he had the free kick period when he just put it bins every time?
Every free kick just went bins.
He took away the Premier League away from Liverpool that year.
Yeah.
He took it away.
Suffers from the problem of A, his exit. That's probably what's brought down a bit. Everyone's support that opinion. B, I think Charlie did almost the longevity. Like, we're going to go
100%.
more, but there is just players with longer on their CV, which maybe isn't the best way to discuss it. But yeah, like Yaya was beast is an understatement.
Yeah, man. Unbelievable player. Unbelievable player.
Shout out Uncle Yaya, man. Like, wonderful player. And going into number 7, this one as well is kind of surprising for me. I had him at 6. Tosim had him at 6. Tabo had him at 6. Mitch at 6. Shalom at 5. And we're going at Ces Fabregas. 50 goals, 111 assists, which is second most assists in Premier League history. 2 Premier League titles to his name. Tabo, Ces Fabregas.
Man, okay, not mad at it completely, to be fair. We all know what Cesc did at Arsenal, and then when he came back at Chelsea as well, I mean, won the Premier League, top assists. Yeah, not much I can say. Like, he's just an elite player, man.
Quick question, because I'm talking about Cesc just reminds me a lot of what the Toast conversation we had a few times about Cesc. Do you think he suffers from the fact he hasn't got the strongest legacy at one club? Do you reckon if he did?
Jake first. Jake, what about you? Where do you put Cesc?
I put Cesc at 10.
Same.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. I think
that's disrespectful.
Here you boys, I can see how I probably rated him a bit later.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just the fact that I think of Cesc, and obviously an amazing passer. He drove Arsenal so brilliantly, and at Chelsea, he was part of that season where it just clicked so brilliantly. But I can't get over the fact they left during his prime.
Yeah.
That for me, it does take away from him. I know obviously he went home, and I can completely appreciate it. But you just lose the prime. Imagine a prime.
But then, do you not think that as almost a credit to himself, of where, despite leaving, I think for 3 seasons, he's still the second most Premier League assists.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And on that basis, he should be at least top 5, in my opinion. On that basis,
I can see. Look, I think I definitely undercut him a bit by putting him 10, but I do think he suffers from the fact that he hasn't got that
Yeah.
The home.
I will forever let the goal of Andre Schürrle against Burnley in the first game.
Oh my God!
Like no look, just tapped it through the whole defense, and Schürrle looked like he was.
Oh yeah,
That's one of the Premier League
what a
goals. Yeah,
pass.
that was unbelievable.
That was when
that was
I
a joke.
in the league.
Oh my God, that was wizardry, man.
That was just
Nah, shout out Ces Fabregas, a wonderful, wonderful player. And we're going to stay in Chelsea, and we're going to go to a player who's probably the most universally loved player in Premier League history.
Oh
and we're
my
going,
days.
What makes him up?
N'Golo Kante.
that.
Shout out him. So in this list, from a VARBAR point of view, there was a couple of 8, 7s, 8, 9, but I think that the person who kind of catapulted Kante above Fabregas, Yaya, and Silva is Andrew, who had him at 3.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, he had him at top 3.
Interesting.
ludicrous, man.
That Andy.
Sabo, top Kante, man.
To be fair, go on. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was just
go on,
going
Jake.
Liverpool. I mean, I love N'Golo Kante. Like, I've said it before on the pod, but obviously we all talk about his ability to cover space, right? What's the running joke? 70% of the earth is covered by water, the rest is by N'Golo Kante. But it's the sheer intelligence that he has on the ball. He not only does he know where the ball's going to go and gets there, but you never really ever see him lose the ball.
Yeah.
No.
He knows where his players are, and he knows how to play, and it's such an underrated part of his game. And the season with Sarri, where we wasted him at an 8, like going forward, still pains me because it was just there was no need. Just let him be that defensive terror like Tuchel has. But he is a fantastic player. But for me, I even think he's a bit over here. Like to say he's a better Premier League centre mid than Ces Fabregas.
Yeah,
that doesn't sit right with me.
But you see, like that's bias.
Recency bias.
Yeah.
No, Kante is a strange one for me because I do think when it's all said and done, when he's out of the league, he's going to be rated probably a lot more than what people, because he's, in terms of sort of worldwide recognition, he's probably going to be known as the best DM ever.
Yeah, I agree.
I do think he's actually going to be known as that. So I think it's more a case, I think people look at him as like, just, he has to be one of the best because he's, in terms of like worldwide recognition, he's just known as that. But yeah, in terms of Premier League player, I agree with Drake in that sense. I think it's difficult to put him ahead of other players just because of longevity, which I don't think is right, but it's true.
Shout out N'Golo Kante, man.
Yeah.
A wonderful person off the pitch and a fantastic player on it. And keeping it moving, we're now delving into the actual top 5. So this is where the scrapping begins between people.
Oh, God.
So you'll separate the best of the best, and we're going to Manchester at number 5. We're going at the 11-time Premier League champion.
Oh my
107 goals, 55 assists. In our list, so there was a bit of separation between 5th and 4th, but we had Stephen, who had him as 3rd, Andrew had him as 2nd, and then kind of the others, Jake 5th, Tabo, Shalom, Mitch at 4. So 5th kind of feels about right.
That Andy is like a criminal, man.
That's a second.
Stephen, over to you, man.
Bro, support the brain of the thing is, people need to recognize it. Yeah, that's that Man United team for that decade probably. Yeah, was the greatest Premier League team ever. Like in terms of like doing it, we won the league back to back, and at the heart of that, the brain of that team was Paul Scholes. Like the people need to recognize that he actually retired with an eye injury. Yeah, he came back and man won the league for us. Do you not? He scored the most decisive goal in that season against City away. Yeah, people need to recognize what Paul Scholes was for the United team. And I feel like because he doesn't come with that pretentiousness of like the stardom, people almost look at him and be like, oh yeah, he was good, but he wasn't. Do you know? Just from my personal point of view, in terms of pushback on Scholes, of where he's 5th feels about right for me personally, but he never had. If I asked you to name his standout in his best season, you'll struggle, right? But it's consistency, though. He never dropped below. When did you ever see
consistency?
It was consistency, season after season after season after season, bro. That's for me. That's more of, and that's why like he's higher than where Yaya is for me, because it's harder to do it season after season after season than just doing that one big standout season. And that's
But then
why
if you see the four above him, you'll say exactly the same, and then you'll be able to pinpoint their best season.
Bro,
That's the
anyway,
separation
let's
in
get
my
to that.
point of view.
Let's get to the Merseyside, because I got
I'm
things to
scared
say about that,
who's
brother.
third and fourth. Honestly, I need to hear.
Yeah, I need to hear this, the rest of it, because boy, the fact that man are saying Scholes at 5, madness for me.
So we're gonna go up 4, man, and this one it's really hard to argue against it. We're gonna go into North London. We're gonna go to the second most team of the year nomination, 3 times Premier League winner, 31 goals, 34 assists. Premier League
I mean,
player
Patrick was better than Scholes. Oh my God!
Player of the year 2001, Patrick Vieira. Tosin, discuss, man.
Hey, man, like for me, Patrick was number 4 in it, man. So this is perfect that he's actually 4 on this list as well. I can't say enough about my skipper, my captain. The man will crunch you, collect the ball cleanly, and then lead the break for Perez, Lundberg, Bergkamp, Henry, take your pick. I mean, this guy could do everything in the midfield, innit? And he brought so much passion, so much aggression. Like, honestly, Patrick Vieira, I've always said it, Patrick Vieira and Steven Gerrard in the middle of the park, if they're behind you and they have to tackle you, it's long.
Yes, fantastic.
They're gonna scoop the ball, but they're gonna leave something on you, and they're gonna stand up and just spread the ball quickly. Like Patrick Vieira, top 4.
Don't forget the Vicks, man. Don't forget the Vicks, bro.
The Vicks on the chest.
The Vicks is
I was iconic, to be honest.
That's almost as iconic as Obi with the gloves and the socks.
Even the United fans, when I was young, boy, man had to. Even when I wasn't, if I didn't struggle to breathe, bro, I'd still have the Vicks there. Local.
Now, Prez, over to you. What do you think, Paddy Vieira?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Where did you have it, by the way, Prez?
No, my list. I didn't get a listing in time, but just to talk on Paddy as a player, I feel like Toast covered him perfectly in terms of his strengths. Such a lengthy player that was hard to get the ball off. You know, shades of, you know, if we compare him to modern day football, Jake's already touched on the likes of Pogba, but you know, hard to get the ball off, rangy footballer. You think you've got away from him, then he stretched his legs like Mr. Armstrong to win the ball back.
Do you hear what Raheem was saying about him though? That, like, he always finished the game playing him and have like some injuries or some sort of bumps and bruises because he literally he was just that awkward player.
He'd leave a bit on you, man. And he was a battler, and he had the grace and technique to go with it as well. So yeah, fantastic footballer for real.
Now, a great player, Paddy Vieira. Shout out him. So now we're going into the top 3, and there's, for me, definitely it's the right order and the right players into the top 3. For third, we're going to Manchester, and we're going to Kevin De Bruyne. 42 goals, 78 assists, 3-time Premier League winner, and only the 3rd player in Premier League history to win back-to-back Player of the Years. Let's go into it. So there's one person, Shalom, had him as the greatest Premier League centre mid. Shalom, come on, brother.
Listen, on skills alone, those guys can't talk to KDB. Facts. They can't talk to him. They honestly can't.
Ability.
Ability. Yeah, they can't talk to him. So that's why he's the greatest for me.
I had him at second, to be honest. I'm not mad at third or first, to be honest.
That's why he's the greatest. Yeah. Gerrard or Lampard might have this, but when you're building a team and you want a CM, you're putting KDB. Don't cap.
Wait. Absolutely. So where is that? If we're at a 3, where is that Scouse merchant? Where is that brother Car?
Let's just focus on KDB. Let's give KDB his flowers, Prez.
Yeah, crazy footballer. I mean, this modern era of the Premier League, I feel like, you know, you'd struggle to name any above him as a centre mid. I mean, out of the 2 retired players that, you know, we'll toss it up for 1 and 2, which you'll share with us in a minute. I mean, the ones that have come below him, you can't really argue against his position at third, man. The guy, he's got everything. He's got everything as a footballer. I think his crossing ability is something that has been compared to with the likes of Steven Gerrard, because we all know what a great crosser of the ball Steven Gerrard was. And I would struggle to pick one of the 2. And so I would probably pick KDB if I had to, in terms of ability to cross the ball and find find a player that he wants to find. Yeah, KDB is just a nutter in that regard, man. He's got it all.
Honestly, like I call KDB Geppetto in it, man, because that Donny pulls the strings. Like football is an 11-a-side game, but to have one player have such impact on a team is just unbelievable. It's just unheard of, man. Like when KDB is like at his best,
He's such a precise player. That's one thing I love him. He's like Terminator playing football. So precise.
I think what's telling about KDB is that in probably a course of a season, I'd probably say 80% of games he's the best player on the park. So I think
agreed.
I think you gotta give him.
What is missing for him to get to that number one spot at the moment?
Time.
It's not the Premier Leagues. It's not
longevity.
That. What is it?
To me, it's definitely longevity.
It's
as well.
time,
When it's all said and done, I think he'll
Mm.
probably end up potentially like
The best,
second
yeah.
most assists in the Premier League history. Maybe just pip Ces Fabregas, but in terms of ability, I agree with kind of Shalom and Prez of where there's not many better, man. Absolute wonderful, wonderful player. Shout out Kevin De Bruyne, man. A wonderful player. Now let's get into the top two. This is where it's been debated, and I think the debate will never end till thy kingdom comes. And at 2, we have the player with 177 goals, 102 assists.
Wait, you man put him second? Oh my God. I'm done. You man now finish me.
The 3-time Premier League winner.
Oh my God.
Lampard.
I need the recount, please.
I need a recount because that's a joke. That is a joke.
Let me show you. The count, we have only 2 people actually had Frank Lampard at number 1, and that is Stephen and Andrew. Everyone else had him at 2nd or at 3rd, and even Andrew had him at 6.
Jake, where did you have him?
I had him first.
Yeah, Jake must have him first.
Jake and Stephen at 1. Now, Jake and Stephen at 1. Everyone else had him at 2nd or 3rd, and then Andrew had him at 6. Yeah. So even if Andrew put him at 2nd, it wouldn't have changed number 1. But let's speak
Andrew's
about
an agenda merchant.
He's a criminal. I told you, boys, he can't be objective. But if I speak,
let's speak about Frank Lampard. Jake, how good is Frank Lampard?
Frank Lampard to me is
the best.
Like, let's just consider. Right, can you say the goals one more time for me?
He had 177 goals and 102 assists.
I don't understand. Not as number 10, you know, as a central midfielder.
Can I just say something?
Oh, God.
Kenna, when we used to watch football and you see a cross, or a pullback. When you see a pullback right now, when I watch a modern game and I see a pullback and no one is there to finish that off, I'm almost always begging to say Frankie Lampard would have been there all the time.
Yeah.
It's always there. One of my favorite players, man.
Adding on to that, can you say the assists again for me, please?
Bro, what else do you want from man? Oh my days.
Be good on goals. The game is literally played to score as many goals as possible. And Frank Lampard put 177 of them in the net himself.
And then created, oh my God.
102. What, like, right, I understand.
Bear in mind he didn't take corners and that like that. Just bear that in mind, innit?
Understand why people would put Gerrard first. Like, I've always said this about the Lampard versus Gerrard debate. I can see why you'd put Gerrard first. I'm never going to argue against Steven Gerrard. But Frank Lampard is just, he was fucking brilliant. He was wonderful.
Dictionary definition of arrive in the box at the right time.
Bro, listen, when you're, even to this day, when you're a kid growing up and you have that sort of, that golden touch in it where you can sort of, you're still being compared to Frankie Lampard. You're still to this day, and it's going to be like that for a very long time. Yeah, like what that guy used to do in terms of football. I feel like you're not going to see that again. You're not going to see someone that can get that many goals in season after season after season. You're not going to see it.
On this is that so we just compared KDB to Gerrard, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm about to say.
Comparison. I completely understand that. Who can you compare to Lampard?
Who? Not one person's come close. Not one.
Now, Frank Lampard is, to me, genuinely a unique player. And his ability to arrive late will probably, he'll be the textbook player to arrive late. So I couldn't speak any higher of Frank Lampard. And similar to Jake, I'll never argue with anyone who puts Frank Lampard first, and it comes down to preference rather than his
Does he
actual
still,
ability
does he
as
still
a
hold the
player.
record for most goals in a season by a centre midfielder?
Oh, yeah.
21 or
wonderful
22
player.
goals or something.
22, I think it was. 09-10, Jake.
Yeah,
So
Ancelotti year. That was
Yeah,
a
09-10.
wonderful,
And he
player.
won the Premier League. Just saying. But carry on.
No, wonderful player. So, yeah, it's that time, lads. It's time to get your flowers out. We're going to go to Anfield. We're going to go up to Liverpool.
Oh, my
And
God.
we're going to Steven Gerrard with 120 goals, 92 assists, 8 times Team of the Year, captain, leader. Tosin, Steven Gerrard.
Man, honestly, you could get monologue toast in it for me to talk about Gerrard, didn't it, man? But let me just say that Gerrard is absolutely everything you would want out of a footballer in the middle.
There's no point.
I'm sorry, man. Like Gerrard had a skinhead, thug, hard tackle error. He had a shoot from 25 yards out error. He had a I'm a carry my team on my back error. There's nothing this guy has not done in the Premier League.
He done the counting as well.
Position, like whether
I always say
the best goal scorer for Liverpool. Oh my God!
I say this about Steven Gerrard, yeah. Just like I just think he had to be that player for Liverpool. He had to be the Mr. Everything because that's the team he supported, team he grew up in. And don't get me wrong, I'm not taking that away from his ability because he still had to deliver that, and he'd done it. But that shit, I feel like when you think about Steven Gerrard, you just think about the clips of where he's winning. Do you know the 30-yard goal against West Ham, FA Cup final? You're thinking about like the Champions League header. You're thinking about all these clips, these iconic moments. But I feel like I need to remind people because he had to do that because at Liverpool.
What does that mean?
I'll argue the opposite way, Stephen. I'll argue the opposite way of where it's quite simple for me. Of Gerrard came through of, if we all agree, the greatest almost Premier League centre mid era of all time, and it may never come around again. Of this list of players, Gerrard played against, I think, every single one of them, and he won 8 times Team of the Year, which is the record for any player. Of where every single season he played 16 seasons in the Premier League, and half of them, his teammates said, his colleagues, said, you are the best centre midfielder in this league 8 times. So that I think speaks volumes in itself.
There's no point, man.
You can't sit at his table when it comes to centre mid. I'm sorry. So for me, this like Lampard is a certain number 2, but for me, Lampard can never be number 1 when Gerrard exists. I'm sorry, it just can't happen. It can't happen.
And you know what I'm
talking about? This is a man who played for Liverpool Football Club who were unable to win a league title, and he's still the best centre midfielder the Premier League.
And he still didn't win the league. He still didn't win the league.
Stephen, that speaks volumes. Yeah, like there's no. Listen to this. There's no amount of goals here. No offense to Frank Lampard. There's no amount of goals that Frank Lampard has to score to overtake Gerrard. It's just impossible right now. Like. It's just.
I think it's nuts. I think the way we rate football is all well and good, and then what? Just because Steven Gerrard scored bangers all the time.
It's not even that. I think if you kind of put together in terms of skill set and exactly what Tosin said, there was nothing on a football pitch Steven Gerrard could not do. Not one skill.
What on a football pitch that Lampard couldn't do?
Bro, he wasn't as good as a passer.
The defensive capabilities of Gerrard.
He's not a great passer.
He wasn't as good
as athletic
as Gerrard. Long and short passes.
Right? No. Let's back up for a second. That's
because
don't disrespect Lampard as a passer, man.
Bro, I don't understand what you man are saying here because I go back to my point originally because Stevie G had to be Mr. Everything for Liverpool.
But that's irrelevant, bro.
No, of course it's not relevant because Lampard didn't have to be Mr. Everything for Chelsea, but he was.
Here we're talking about his actual ability. It's not about the moment.
You just mentioned ability-wise that he could do this, he could do that because he had to. Lampard Lampard played with players that done the defensive stuff. So you can't use that as a judgment because it's irrelevant. Lampard was the best player in the Chelsea team, but he played with a team full of winners, full of champions. Gerrard didn't, so of course he had to do
that's
more.
fair, and that's fair. But like I'll always refer to, his colleagues voted, and they voted Steven Gerrard as 8 times Team of the Year, despite him never winning the league. And as Tabo said, that kind of speaks volumes of Steven Gerrard. So
let's run through the list, man.
So at number 10,
we consistency as a as an argument for Scholes, then give Gerrard the same props because he was consistent throughout his whole career, from a 17-year-old lad until he retired.
So was Lampard.
So, rounding up and going through our list of top 10 greatest Premier League players, we have at VarBar Podcast, number 10, Roy Keane, number 9, David Silva, number 8, Yaya Toure, number 7, Ces Fabregas, number 6, N'Golo Kante, number 5, Paul Scholes, number 4, Patrick Vieira, number 3, Kevin De Bruyne, number 2, Frank Lampard, and at number 1, Steven Gerrard. I'd like to thank all the listeners for listening to us today. We're going to be doing more of these because, as you can see, the boys get really passionate about topics like this. And hopefully going forward, we'll have a little bit less of bias in our voting. But thank you very much. As always, tune into our future episodes. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, VarBar Podcast. And that is us. We're out.
Peace.
Peace.
Yeah, man.
See you later.
Hey, Kai.